Hello. All right. Good afternoon to you for joining us. I don't know, we might have some additional people logging on, so we'll give those people some additional time to get started. Okay. Thank you for logging in. My name is Mason Philpott. I'm the Director of Recruitment for American Canadian School of Medicine. So I see we already have a few folks who've already logged in. So at this time, if you could please share your name and where you're logging in from, I think that'll be extremely helpful. We are waiting on some others to join in. So please feel free to put a message in the chat. Hi, Cleo from Georgia. Thanks for logging in and participating. And it looks like we also have Karen from Las Vegas. And we have Oceana from California. So kind of have a wide distribution all over, people all over the country dialing in. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests. So we do have Dr. Esther Sanchez de Leon and Audrick Carter. Hi, thanks for joining in, Dr. Esther de Leon. Dr. Esther is one of our faculty members here at ACSOM. She is has been one of the leaders in our prep program, so we'll hear from her later. And also we have Audrick Carter, who is one of our students at ACSOM. He started originally in the preparatory program. He is now in our medical school program and doing exceptionally well. We'll hear from him about his experience. But thank you everybody for dialing in. It looks like, we have Michelle from Texas and FBAB from Florida. So again, thank you guys for joining in. I don't want to punish those of you who showed up on time, and we'll go ahead and start with the presentation. So my name is Mason Philpott. I'm the Director of Recruitment for American Canadian School of Medicine. Some of y'all might already know me from any contact you've had with the school. We have numerous channels to reach out to students who are interested in going to medical school. We'll talk later in this presentation about how to apply to ACSOM, and I'll be happy to cover any questions that y'all might have at that. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So for the time being, we probably will address some of the questions y'all have already. But for the time being, just keep your questions for yourself. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have that available for everybody. So I did want to introduce further Dr. Esther de Leon. If you could say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here.
So Dr. Esther Sanchez de Leon is currently there in Dominica at our campus, along with Audrick Carter, who is finishing up his first semester in medical school. He actually completed the preparatory program for our first session that we ran it out. He did extremely well in the preparatory program, is continuing to be very successful in our program that we have at ACSOM. So we'll get an opportunity to hear from him later, and he can kind of let you know what it was like going through our particular program and how it's been able to lead to him being a successful medical student. So I do want to give a plug for who we are. We are the American Canadian School of Medicine. We are located in the beautiful island of Dominica in the Caribbean. We are the first private nonprofit medical school that is in the Caribbean. So although there are many schools to choose from in the Caribbean that will provide you a pathway to go back and practice in the US or Canada, we are the first one that is a private nonprofit medical school. Secondly, our founder, Dr. Arvind Bhagarpur, actually went to medical school in the Caribbean. He went to Ross University, which is where our current campus is now. So we really do have a unique perspective on what it's like being a student going through the process. And we do make student success a priority at our program. So I do want to talk about our Prep for Success program. Audrick, being someone that did really well in this program and is now on to bigger and better things. This is a newer program that we rolled out. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of all the hard work that our students have put in. And I'm very proud of what Dr. Esther Sanchez de Leon has been able to do with her team. We are continuing to see students come into this program and really get the proper foundation so that as they go through medical school, they have all the tools to be successful. What I like about this particular program, we deal with a wide variety of students. Applying to medical school has never been more competitive. So we do see some folks that are, very passionate about becoming physicians. But oftentimes when we meet as an admissions committee, we might say, well, we don't know how this particular individual would do. What I like about our preparatory program, if you come into this program, you work hard, you pass both modules, you are automatically accepted into our MD program. So this is more powerful than doing an MPH program. I know, many students will look at doing a post-bac program to strengthen their overall application. And there are some really good programs out there. And I've seen students that have done those and it really have helped them. The downside with that is there really aren't any programs that I know of that will give you automatic acceptance into an MD program. And that's what I really like about this program is we will give you an opportunity, we'll give you a chance to come in and really prove yourself go on to become a great medical student, just like Audrick. So I did want to go over, who is a good fit to come into our preparatory program. So, we have students who maybe did very well in school, and when it came time to take the MCAT, they didn't quite get, an MCAT score they thought they would. We have several students who have been out of school for many years. So although they might have been, good students 7 years ago, they did really need to, knock off some of the rust and be in a position where they're going to be able to be on an equal plateau with students who are starting medical school. So I would also say, anyone who maybe has a lower GPA than what we typically would accept. All sorts of things have happened, especially with COVID. Some of our students might have had, a year while that happened where their grades really did dip off. And so this is an opportunity to really prove yourself. I think anyone who is passionate about becoming a physician, but maybe just needs some extra support should take a look at this program. We've worked really diligently to make sure that our students are going to have the tools to be successful. What we don't want to have happen is to try and give someone a chance, have them come into our MD program, and then just, within the first semester, the amount of science that's coming their way becomes too much and they just get washed out. And so we would rather have some of our students start in this program, get the proper foundation, and then go on to be successful like Audrick. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to Dr. Esther Sanchez de Leon.
Thank you, Mason. Would you like me to add on to your list of who would be a good candidate first, and then we go into the structure since you were already talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're kind of there in the trenches day by day with the students. So we've got several students who've dialed in that are, kind of just interested in this program. And I know this will also be recorded. So for some of our students who, maybe they've thought about going to medical school and they might say, well, I've been out of school for a while. What do I do? Why don't you just kind of elaborate on what you've seen, with your own eyes, and who tends to do well in this program and what does it take?
Of course. So from what I've seen so far, and I'm also in the admissions committee, so I'm also in charge of evaluating candidates, not just for the MD program, also for the prep. So I know very well how it works from inside. The ideal candidates that we're looking for in the prep program are going to be those who have the capacity to be academically successful. That is super important because we're not trying to take people for the prep that we know that they're not going to make it to the MD. We always try to take people that we think they're going to be successful because, we understand also that why would you go outside of your country? Why would you move abroad? Why would you do the logistics of all that just for a semester, right? So that is not the ideal. We want to keep you here. So we don't take candidates into the MD or into the prep if we really think you're not going to be successful. But some people, for whatever reasons, as you said, the pandemic, they don't have the highest GPA, or some people were not able to take the MCAT yet. Not because they're just like, oh, I just don't feel like taking it, but it's an investment of time, it's an investment of resources, and maybe people are busy doing, like getting clinical experience instead. Or sometimes people take the MCAT, but they didn't have enough time to prepare it because, there's life, and they don't get such a high score, but they still have promising grades and they still have a promising resume. And also some people have good grades. Maybe they took the MCAT long time ago, but maybe they have been out of, science, out of studying for a long time. And they were in another field for a while, but they can still be successful. They just don't have that fresh scientific background that it's kind of very important to start medical school. So I would say those are our ideal candidates. Once again, if by chance you didn't get high enough GPA, or your GPA is high, but you're busy with your experience, research experience, clinical experience, and you don't take the MCAT, or you do take it, but your grades are not super high, then you're a good candidate. And if you have all this, but you have been out of school for a long time, we may also make the decision to send you to prep first, just to make sure you're going to do well. So with that said, I think it's also very important to clarify what the prep is not for. Sometimes they tell me, we discussed this in the admissions committee. This candidate is missing some prerequisites, for example, in physics. Well, we do not teach physics in the prep program because our curriculum is the same one as for the first semester, the first 2 modules of the first semester of the MD program. So we're not focusing on physics here. We're not focusing on organic chemistry. We touch on it, right, through biochemistry, but we're not trying to supply for that. We cannot really compensate for a complete lack of clinical experience. Although it wouldn't be impossible to have a candidate who has very little clinical experience and maybe a lot of research experience, right? Or vice versa. Some candidates have very little research experience and no clinical, and a lot of clinical experience. So once again, the prep program cannot compensate for those things. Your clinical skills are coming from experience, and also you're going to gain them through the MD. But it will definitely give you a stronger scientific background. And also, some people have never lived outside of their, region, like far from their family, and moving to a different country is a big challenge. So if we suspect, that maybe this person is going to do well academically, but maybe they may struggle because of the adaptation experience to the island, then it may be a good thing also to start with prep and then move on to MD. Also, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But I did have a question. What do you think are some of the characteristics that someone needs to bring as they're starting the prep program in order to be successful in the program?
Well, definitely curiosity, because the way the curriculum is organized is in the same way as in the MD program. And it relies a lot on the work that the student puts on their own. Even though we do cover more things in class explicitly, we still rely on the students having an endless curiosity, right? Like for knowledge. I think because it's a small group based, like the same as the MD program, they have to come with an open mind and the will to participate, because it's all discussion based. It really relies on the students putting themselves out there. So if your study style is basically going to a lecture hall, taking notes, and just going to the library and studying on your own, I'm not just going to say that maybe the prep program is not for you. Our university is not for you, right? Because that's not how we operate here. But if you have this mindset that you like to solve problems like with a team, and you really want to be the one who finds those answers because that you really believe that that's what's going to make you a good professional in the future, then you're the ideal candidate. Once again, it doesn't matter if you're missing this or that, because not everyone has had the same opportunities, but you're still going to be successful.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you very much, Dr. De Leon. So I don't know if you wanted to go into any more depth about the preparatory program, how it's structured.
Sure, we can do that. The one thing I wanted to clarify is that joining the prep program does not guarantee your entry into medical school. You need to pass the exams, because that's the other thing that we're trying to see here, right? And our exams are very similar to the ones that the MD students are going to be taking. So it is challenging. It is as challenging as the first semester, but we try to give you more resources, more support. That's the difference, but it's not easy. So this is not something that, you just have to think, oh, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be bored. I'm not going to learn anything. No, you're going to learn a lot. Trust me.
Is it fair to say that the students who are in our preparatory program are working just as hard as really all of our students in the MD program?
Yes, definitely. And both in prep and in the MD program, when students do not work hard and do not do the pre-work, it's going to show in the sessions, So people try to avoid that, because you want to be able to participate in the discussions, you want to be able to explain things, you want to be able to ask deeper questions, and in order to do that, you have to come prepared. So it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, we had a webinar previously with one of our students, Patrick Forbes, who's now getting ready to take USMLE Step 1. But that was one of his big takeaways was, when he did undergrad, he was able to just maybe, wait until before his exam and really, cram and study. And at this level, you do that, right? Like you really have to every day be on the grind. So I think it is great the way that our courses are structured, because everything's done in a small group. Yourself and the other faculty members really do have a close eye on, what's going on with this. And so definitely, we tend to make sure that people aren't just falling between the cracks. But I did want to, if you can kind of clarify, because I get a lot of questions from prospective students, exactly how the program is structured, right? It's basically it's a 1 semester program, but if you can go over kind of what that looks like for the first semester that they're in prep.
Absolutely. So you can see on the top the structure of the first semester of the MD program. It has 3 modules. Each module is 7 weeks, and in total is a 21 week. semester, right? The prep program is 19 weeks instead. So what we do during these 19 weeks is we're going to do the exact same material in Foundations of Medicine, but over 12 weeks. And when I say the exact same material, it is the same material, but we cover a lot of things in more depth. And the reason is because in the MD program, there is a lot of assumption that people are going to come with certain strong background in molecular biology or in biochemistry, but I do not take that for granted. So we try to discuss every single detail, and my experience with the students has been that sometimes they want to go even deeper, and that I think that's very positive when they do that, when they come to you already with questions in the morning, because they really want to understand how gene expression works, or they really want to understand how this disorder works and the pathophysiology and all that, right? And I think that's very positive. But in terms of, once again, the material covers is the same. Like the material it covers is the same in Foundations of Medicine. I may give extra resources here and there for certain topics, but the demand is that you have to know the same topics for both. Now, in the second module, Attack and Defense, you can see that it's the same duration, but it is called Pre-Attack and Defense. So the reason why it's called like this is because we do cover the same materials, except for certain things that we leave out, but we focus more on other things. So the normal Attack and Defense module is going to be covering immunology and microbiology. But when they go through immunology, they don't really go like slowly and in detail about every single cell of the immune system and how is their journey of development and how do they work, and like practicing a lot of questions about those things. And they kind of move over it like much faster. Why? Because microbiology is a very heavy topic and it requires a lot of memorization, like names of bacteria, infections, things like that. So what we do in the prep program in the immunology part is that we go through it in very detail. So we take longer time to do that, because I think it is very important that the students understand how our body is defending itself from the pathogens. It is key to understand infections. And then in the microbiology part, we cover some of the bacteria, but not all of the bacteria that they're going to do in the MD program. I think that when it comes to memorization, that's going to come, from the student. They're going to have to put the time in, and there is not that much value in seeing the same bacteria over and over. So we're focusing on less like infections, less species, but understanding them very well. So the next time you're not bored and just do the same thing, but you know some of the things and you can focus on other of the things, or maybe you know better the foundational and you can focus more on the clinical aspects.
Great. Yeah, and so everything's case-based learning, right? So
yes.
If you could just kind of explain to our audience, what is that? Like how is it that our students are I guess applying these case-based lessons?
So I don't know if you want to move a couple of slides because it shows the schedule of the day. Like that's just what the modules cover, the topics, but I want to touch on this one. I think it's important that I explain this. So the regular MD program is fully case-based, right? That means that every morning you can see from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. with some break in the middle. In the MD program, we're going to have the small group sessions, and the students are going to face together clinical cases. And that's going to mean, like some clinical picture, some like patient that comes to you with this and these symptoms, and then they're going to start discussing what's the diagnosis. They're going to have to face questions about the pathophysiology, questions about, for example, who is affected and why, who is at risk, who is not, all those little details, right? Really understanding mechanisms and really distinguishing this like diagnosis from others, if that's the goal of the day, etc. So they're going to be working together. Our classes are at most 10 people in the MD, right? So even with that small group, they may even subdivide in smaller groups, discuss what's going on with the patient, and then there's a discussion all of the students together. It's always moderated by the faculty. There's always going to be at least one faculty, if not two, in the room. And they're all MD, like MD doctors, medical doctors, and they're going to help you with this discussion. They're not going to like how do you say, spoon feed you anything, but they're going to be there moderating. They're going to be there seeing how you guys figure it out and helping you through it. And if you have any questions about clinical stuff, obviously they're going to clarify anything that is necessary, right? And they can share your experience with you also. Oh, I have had a patient like this, and this is what we did, etc., which I think is very valuable. So after that, normally they present some summary. There's some slides that will give the key of the material of the day. And then they go to the lunch break, and then they have afternoon classes. And those afternoon classes are going to be anatomy lab and introduction to clinical medicine. So in the MD program, we work a little different. We have the same schedule, morning and afternoon. But instead of having just the clinical discussion, the clinical case discussion, we're going to first go through some slides. We're going to go through, the material that the pre-work covered. Sometimes, I try to provide more resources. I try to provide, like slides that have graphical explanations of things. Sometimes we will look at a video from a good resource, like things like that. We're going to try to really cover the material and make sure everyone understands it and make sure everyone is at the same page. And then in the second part of the class, we're going to go to the clinical cases. And, because we have already discussed the little details about each disease, we're not going to be answering like those details as part of the clinical case practice. We're just going to be doing NBME type questions, USMLE type questions, a lot of them. So in a regular MD like program session, they're going to be sometimes discussing from one clinical case to, I don't know if 4 or 5, maybe, like I don't know what's the maximum that I've seen in our sessions, but it's like a limited amount. Here we see maybe in one day 20 questions or 30 questions, whatever we need. So we try to give a lot of resources and a lot of opportunity for the students to practice. And in the MD program, they also have these platforms and they do practice like with questions, but that's more individual. We try that the discussions are common always. So the students have always the opportunity to say, I think it's this answer. Well, I think it's that one. Why? And then, that's what generates the discussion. We always obviously moderate it and facilitate it, but the idea is that the students are the ones who come to the conclusions. And after that, we have some afternoon sessions sometimes, which can be also more clinical case practice, or it can be, practical sessions on things like pharmacology, genetics, things that are more quantitative, and maybe we practice together, like with the numbers here and there, instead of just doing test type questions. So that's how we work. And then obviously we provide resources with links every day. And that's a pre-work for the day after. So it is very, very important that the students, after they are done with the morning and the afternoon, dedicate the self-study time to go through the material of the next day. And we work with the exact same platforms as the MD program, which are like Lecturio, TrueLearn, Ambos, and Osmosis.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know, did you want me to go kind of backwards to the previous slide?
You can go, like, also, I think it's important to mention, and this is both for our MD and our prep program, that at ACSOM we work a little different when it comes to, the way we organize the courses. We don't have like biochemistry for an entire semester, and then that goes in parallel with, physiology, and that goes in parallel with whatever, genetics, and then you just take 1 hour of each, a lecture, and then you just go home and study. We compress these topics together kind of in an intensive way, and we cover them like over a few weeks. So for the first few weeks, we're going to be fully focused on molecular and cell biology, and always we're going to find a way to link it to the clinic. I can give you an example. When we're studying protein translation, we're also studying the diphtheria toxin from the bacteria that causes diphtheria, right? So there's always ways, mechanism of action of drugs that inhibit the like transcription. So we always try to like link it already with the clinical aspects. Then once we are done with molecular cell and biology, we go into biochemistry, pharmacology, we move on to genetics and so on. So we do these intensive weeks on each topic instead of having longitudinal courses. But what we also do is that we keep circling back. Meaning, when we're talking about immunology, I'm going to talk about things that we covered in biochemistry, right? Because it's all linked. So we're always going to circle back to previous modules. And like this, we think it's a way also to, like enhance this, like the memory of the topics instead of just taking an exam and leaving everything behind. We always try to link things together. So these topics just come over and over during the 2 years, because then people have to take the USMLE step 1 and they have to know everything. So that's another of the like core foundations of our curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the great things about our overall program is the fact that it is case-based. You're able to apply the science to an actual clinical setting. Whereas I know, the traditional way was almost, you almost had like graduate level science classes, and then you had to kind of figure out how it tied into a clinical setting. Where with our program, we're really starting that from day one, and and into our own preparatory program, which I think is absolutely amazing. So it is definitely a really special program. And, I know from being on campus, and, I'm really not a science guy, but just seeing the level of engagement of our students as they work through their case base in a flipped classroom is really incredible. And I think obviously it takes a certain amount of endurance to get through all of it. It's not easy. But I think the end results is, our students tend to do extremely well. And it is a program where someone coming in who's, going to have to obviously, work hard no matter what, you're going to see a lot of success in this program. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Okay.
I think we can have questions at the end if they need to, but I think it's very important that we hear Audrick's experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Audrick. Audrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your overall background, what made you decide to come to ACSOM, and what your experience was like in the prep program?
Good day, everyone. I'd first like to say, I'm actually from the island of Dominica, so this is like being home for me. But I was in America in New York, and I got my bachelor's degree in biomedical sciences. So I've always been interested in becoming a physician from a very young age. And I was studying for the MCAT, trying to get my application, and I saw that there's a new medical school on my island, and they have the prep program, and they said, if you're able to go through it, it prepares you for medical school, and you'll be able to get into the MD program. So that seems like in my opinion, a win-win. It made sense, and when I got to the program, I understood that this was a lot of work. This is a challenging experience, but that's important. You need to be able to, learn how to study, learn how to be able to operate as a medical student, but you also need to be able to, learn discipline, learn how to work hard every day. It's very different from being on the undergraduate program. You would do lectures. Um, it's a very different model of learning, but I think in my opinion, a better model of learning of what we do at ACSOM, and that enables you to be very prepared for your future success.
That's great. And I know Dr. Sanchez de Leon kind of had a layout of what, a typical day looks like for one of our prep students. So do you want to share with our audience kind of what your days were like, Monday through Friday, with all the preparatory work you've got to do? What would a typical day look like for you? Let's say Monday through Friday.
Yeah. You you try to get up early, you try to get breakfast, you be prepared. From usually last night we have a self-study. So the day before, I obviously reviewed the information for the today's topic. So once I come to class, I'm prepared to, interact with my peers to discuss the today's topic. Um, and it's a very interactive. You ask questions, you challenge each other. You say, this might be right, someone might have a different idea, and we really have to work together to, solve a case. So we do that in the morning, then we have like a lunch break. You get something to eat, you refresh, and then you come back in the afternoon to every the afternoon sessions could vary. Like we could be practicing questions, we could be going over a topic in more detail that students might not really have grasped yet. And then once that's done, you can you can be with your peers, you can study together, if you need whatever form of self-study that works for you, you use that to study for the next week's n- tomorrow's information. You could also review it's very important to review information you've learned, so you should try to manage that as well. So that way you're always, you're learning new information, but you're always revisiting all information. So then once the time comes for like an examination, you feel very certain and prepared that you will pass it.
Excellent. And so I know obviously, a lot of work went into going through the prep program to be successful and to pass it. As you started the MD program this semester, did you feel like, because you'd already worked in these small group settings, right? Did you feel like it really gave you an advantage versus, the other students who came fresh into the program and really not knowing what to do? Or I guess not used to the program. How did you feel? How prepared you were as you were starting as a first year medical student this semester?
I felt like it was almost like a seamless transition. I'm accustomed to my environment. I know what I'm doing every day. And since, you literally just did most of these topics, well, if not all of these topics to the last semester, you feel very confident that, when you look at information, you say you understand it very clearly to the point where you can even assist others, um, and help them and guide them as well. So I think it's a really important decision I made to go to the prep, but it paid off, and I feel like I'm doing well.
Well, you definitely are, and we'll kind of touch on that. Based on what I've heard from our dean, you actually scored, I think, in the 93rd percentile on what is it? It's the exam that tests you to see how you're going to do on the USMLE. So obviously you're doing something right, because this is comparing you not just to students at ACSOM, but really students across North America. So we know this is going to open up some great doors for you as you move forward and transition into clinical years and then on into residency. So, definitely congratulations on that. Um, any, I guess, word of advice to people who maybe were in your shoes about a year ago, where they're thinking like, hey, is this something I could really do? And if they are, interested in moving forward, what advice would you have for them?
I say, you can be nervous, especially if you've never like lived abroad or, lived in a foreign place. And, becoming a doctor, becoming a physician seems like sometimes a very tall mountain to climb. But I feel our prep program prepares us very well. You have the resources you need. You have your professors, everyone is there for you. And I feel like the sense of community gives you the opportunity to do well.
Excellent. Yeah. And do you want to share any uh, bit about the admissions process, what that was like applying at AXOM?
Um I think I did it the online, so I went on the website and I filled out the prep form and
Mhm.
I submitted my resume, CV, transcripts. So that was, I guess, a standard application, and then you get back uh if they accept that you have interviews, so then you get I think there was two people on my interviews, so that's for about an hour. I thought it went pretty smoothly. I didn't have any issues, so and then I got accepted, so I was very pleased about that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, obviously it ended up as a great result for you, and you're now on this pathway, right, where you're doing extremely well in medical school, scoring in the 93rd percentile on the MBME based exams. So you're well on your way for further greatness. Do you have an idea of what type of specialty you want to go into?
I've been thinking about family medicine. Kind of want to kind of have my own practice in the future, hopefully. So,
Oh, that's great. So, also, I know there's a number of visiting faculty members who come to ACSOM. If you had any, unique experiences there, anyone who really stood out to you as you've gone through our program?
yeah, we have had numerous visiting faculty. Uh, it's the sometimes it's not what you're learning at the moment. It might be for another code, but you still have a great opportunity to meet different professors from all around the world, and that gives you an insight if you're curious about a certain field of medicine that you could open your eyes, or you could learn like information that I like to learn information. I like to have like fun facts or have an idea of certain things. It's always a good thing to like know sometimes. So that always it's always important to come to this morning sessions. You meet these faculty and you learn what they have to teach you, even if it's not what you're learning currently in your medical education.
Yeah, it's obviously a great opportunity to really further expand stuff. I think Dr. Sanchez de Leon kind of touched on it. You really need to bring the curiosity, right? Like, you have to be asking questions, and why is it this way, and why is it that way? And the thing about medicine is it's also constantly changing, right? Like there's constant new research that's coming out. So I think I can kind of hear in there like we are helping to kind of foster that curiosity. So that's great. I do have one more question for you, Audrick, and then we'll get through our presentation. Then we'll open up the Q&As if anybody has questions, either for myself, Dr. Sanchez de Leon, or Audrick. So being from Dominica, I don't know if you saw there was an article published by BBC where they listed the top 25 destinations to go to in 2025, and they actually listed Dominica as number one. So believe it or not, we have some prospective students that have never even heard of Dominica, or maybe they think, is this the Dominican Republic? Why should anybody come and visit Dominica? And why do you think it's a great place to study medicine?
We call it the nature island of the Caribbean. So, if you love warm weather, you love beautiful sceneries, you love peace. My island is a very peaceful place to be. And that's probably one of the best places to study medicine. It's a very challenging, hardworking field to go into. And if you just, you're in an environment that makes you feel calm, uh, and focused, then it really just you're able to do what you need to do, and that's all you want to be in a position to do.
Excellent. Yeah, it's definitely a very beautiful place. I hopefully people have seen some of the pictures, but very picturesque. Lots of opportunities, as Audrick mentioned. It is known as the Nature Island, so really healthy outlet when you do have a little bit of time off as a medical student, maybe to go to the beach or go on a hike on a beautiful nature trail. So there's just some wonderful opportunities there, and I would encourage everyone. If possible, we do have campus tours that are available. So definitely link up with me about that. And I did want to touch on the admissions piece. So we do require people applying have completed their bachelor's, or at least, be in the process of completing their bachelor's prior to matriculation. We do have a requirement of 2 semesters of biology, 2 semesters of chemistry, 1 semester of organic chemistry, 1 semester of physics, and 1 semester of math. There are certain cases, especially with the preparatory program, where if someone, maybe was missing one of these classes, we might either be able to give a course substitution or course waiver. But definitely you can talk to me about that on an individual basis. You do need some sciences coming in. I think Dr. Sanchez de Leon did a really good job of explaining that and kind of, what's needed to be successful. As Audrick pointed out, we do try to make our application fairly easy. So if you've already previously applied with, let's say, AMCAS or a COMAS application, we can have you apply with that. We will need also your updated resume or CV. There might be some additional documents we need after my team reviews it. But the traditional application that we have, you do have the option to apply directly into the preparatory program, where we do need a resume, all of your transcripts, a personal statement from you. We don't require the MCAT in the preparatory program, but if you have taken it, we do need to see your MCAT results. So kind of as Audrick has pointed out, it is a pretty straightforward process. After you've submitted your application, myself or my team will review it. We do try and give everyone a fair shot at an interview. It is a holistic review. So I think most people applying into the preparatory program would get an interview. Our admissions committee is interested in kind of learning about you more, as Dr. Sanchez de Leon pointed out. We do want to make sure people are going to be a good fit in the program. It's not just, can this person do well, for this particular semester, but can they do well in the prep program, then in our MD program, then later on as a physician. So after the interview, the admissions committee does a really diligent job. We tend to try and give someone an admissions answer within about a week. So it is a really quick turnaround time. So I think about 90% of the cases, we can give you an admissions decision within less than a week after the interview, which is pretty incredible. And then once you've been accepted, you'll then work with myself and Student Support Services on your next steps and how to move forward. Right now, the preparatory program is heavily subsidized. So often students will ask, like, hey, do you have any scholarships available for the prep program? In a sense, everyone's getting a scholarship because the tuition is only $1,000. And the cost of living in Dominica is very affordable compared to the US. So, for housing, we have apartments starting for as little as $600 a month, some up to $700 per month. That's fully furnished. So I'm here in Houston, Texas, and I know some of y'all have chimed in from different states. I don't know anywhere where you can get housing that's that affordable right now. Health insurance is also reasonably affordable. Kind of as Audrick can allude to, everything is kind of set up there by the campus, where you have all your basic necessities. You're really within walking distance. So it's not like Houston, Texas, where you have to have a car to get around. I think none of Audrick, you don't have a vehicle, do you?
No, I don't.
None of our students have vehicles. So, obviously transportation costs are going to be very, very minimal. So the idea being, if someone goes through our preparatory program, obviously we want to bring in people that are going to be successful. But should someone not make it through the program, the idea is the amount of money that it's going to cost them to get through this program is very minimal. So when we are thinking about people who maybe we don't know how they would do within their first semester as a medical student, one of the top concerns is, we don't want to bring someone in a program who all of a sudden they rack up all this money in student loans, and then, they're not able to get through medical school. And then you end up leaving with all this debt and no credentials. So it is one of my favorite things about the preparatory program. This is very affordable right now. It is heavily subsidized. So we obviously we want as many students to get through the program as possible, but should someone not, you'll end up leaving without a crippling amount of debt. Here are the QR codes. You could reach out to myself, Mika, or Christine. We're pretty much, available to meet with you. A lot of you probably have some unique questions. Maybe you're not comfortable asking, on a streaming platform. That's fine. Please feel free to reach out with us. We are available for one-on-one meetings, or you could reach out to us by phone or email. Also, once students have been accepted, we do have our entire student support services team to help you, really with the entire onboarding process. Audrick was already from Dominica, so he was pretty familiar with everything. Myself and Esther, that's not the case. So our student support services really does a thorough job once someone has been accepted into making sure you're going to make it there to Dominica, and you'll have everything so that as you start classes, be it in our MD or preparatory program, you have everything that you need to get started. And at this time, if anyone wants to leave any questions for myself, Dr. Sanchez de Leon, or Audrick, please do so in the chat. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. While we're waiting, Dr. Sanchez de Leon, I don't know if you had any questions for Audrick. Obviously, you're pretty familiar with him. So at this time, I don't see any comments coming in or questions. So maybe we just did a really thorough job, and everyone understands, exactly how the program works, or they'll want to link up with us. So in leaving, for those who are ready to take the next steps, there is no application fee to apply. We are still taking applications for our fall 2025 semester, which is starting this July. And then obviously we're doing interviews for our January 2026 class. So please feel free to go ahead and scan the QR code. I did see a question that came in from Michelle. And why don't we do this? We'll go ahead and read off the question. I'll let Audrick answer it. So as the nature island, how is the infrastructure? How's the water, electricity, internet, and telecommunications? Audrick, do you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like everywhere else, um like I have an apartment, so my apartment has everything I need in it. I think everything is included in uh the bill, the a month. So
Correct,
the rent
except for like,
includes water and electricity and internet. So uh everything's included. So once you get on the island, you get like a basically apartment. There's different locations you could go to, and they all offer the same thing basically.
yeah, that's so obviously being at the former campus of Ross University, there's plenty of inventory for housing that's available. So what we've been able to do is go in and pre-screen several of the housing units. So it is, the majority of our students are coming there, just with a suitcase with their clothes and whatever IT equipment they might have. So all apartments are, it includes water. The electricity, I'm sorry, not electricity. The electricity is billed separately. You do prepay for it. It tends to be a little bit more expensive than what you would pay in the US, being that you're on an island. So you do need to be mindful of that. But the internet is included, and they have to have a minimum internet speed as we continue to have more and more students who are joining our program. We are constantly testing the housing units to make sure they reach the minimum for internet speed. And it's also pretty easy to get a cell phone while you're there in Dominica. And I believe we have, there's 2 providers there who will be at our new student orientation to assist with that. Audrick, if you want to fill us in, how much is it approximately per month for a cell phone plan there in Dominica?
I believe per month it says 86 EC, so I think that's between like 30, 40 US dollars, about that
Yeah,
a
so
month.
significantly less than what I'm paying for Verizon right now, and pretty reliable as well. So, again, it's there, with probably with the exception of electricity, things tend to be less expensive there in Dominica. Um, okay, we'll move on to the next one. Cleo asks, where is the clinical portion of your program done? Which hospitals in the US? So we do have our clinical rotations in the US. Right now, Audrick, being in your first semester, you haven't started that portion. But we do have several teaching hospitals that are in Southern California. We are in the process of expanding out some additional sites. Dr. Sanchez de Leon, I don't know if you're involved in any of the things going on with clinicals, or is it mostly there in Dominica?
We do not get involved in the clinical rotations that come after, like none of us.
Okay.
But are you asking in terms of like other clinical experiences here, or?
Yeah, if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, during the MD program, they have introduction to clinical medicine, and then also there are some opportunities for some community medicine events. I think in the plans for like one of the plans for introduction to clinical medicine is to start seeing actual patients with the students, not just actors or working with the mannequins and other resources that we have, but also like having patients with maybe certain conditions that volunteer to come as patients for the students. But once again, the important clinical rotations are going to happen already in the US after you pass the first 2 years of medical school. So that's, I think, like in any other Caribbean American medical school.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see, Karen has a question. Do we apply to the program, or are we referred to the program from the MD admissions committee? Good question. You can apply directly into the prep program. What can happen if someone applies into the MD program? Our dean of admissions will review it. He could make the recommendation that someone apply to our preparatory program. And we also, the admissions committee also has the option, let's say someone interviewed for the MD program, and they're reviewing the application, they might just decide like, hey, they did interview for the MD program, but we do think they'd be a better fit into our preparatory program. So I do think, if you kind of know where you are, you want to go directly into the preparatory program, it is, I think, beneficial to go ahead and apply directly to it. But also, we did have the previous slide up. Please feel free to reach out to me. And Dr. Esther, Sanchez de Leon,
Yeah,
hand
since
raised.
I'm involved in admissions, I can elaborate a little bit more on that just briefly. You can apply directly to the MD program if you have all the prerequisites, right? If you're not missing anything, just you can apply for the MD program. If you're missing your MCAT and MCAT is now a requirement for our MD program, then you can apply to the prep program. The dean is going to review your application first, and he may already make the decision to move you to prep application, to move your application to the prep part, right? And in that case, by the time you do your interview, you should be aware, like someone has to tell you, to communicate to you that you have been moved into the application process for prep and you're going to be interviewed for that. The dean may decide that your application stays in the MD program and then you do your interview. But your interviewers may also decide that you are a better fit for the MD program, and that's going to be discussed after the interview in the meeting with the admissions committee. So you can be moved at different stages if the committee decides or considers that you're going to benefit from it and that you're not ready for the MD program, instead of just rejecting you from the MD program. But you can also just apply directly.
Great. And then also Sana asked, after July, when is the other program starting? So we do have 2 start dates. We have classes starting July 21st. And we also have classes that'll start in January. So we are interviewing for both. So if you are considering coming for July, I definitely encourage you to get your application in by the end of the month, because we're still going to need to interview you and end up making a decision. So if you are considering coming for July, I definitely recommend go ahead and start applying now. Make sure to get everything together. And let's see, we'll go on to Aula. And I believe this is probably directed towards Audrick. She wants to know, what are study methods? I know Enki is a going thing in medical school. Did you write down notes after watching lectures? And then I'm not familiar with what Enki is, but Audrick, why don't you tell us about your study methods? Have they shifted as you've gone through your course of study with us? Let me give a little bit of insight in what your techniques are.
Sure. So Anki is basically a platform. It's basically flashcards. And that is very useful for memorizing things. I believe at the beginning of each semester we have a lecture of like study tools and test taking strategies. So there are different study tools you can use to prepare yourself. I do use Anki. Uh, Compared to the prep into the transition to medical school, I do write more. So with my classmates, especially if I'm like explaining something, which is probably the best way you could like learn something that you're able to teach someone else. So if you're able to explain concepts to someone else, that means you really understand the information. So I like to I like to watch videos, whatever sources you can find it on YouTube. There's like specific medical, we have Lectorio, we have Osmosis. There are many different platforms you can use to watch videos. And then I use Anki with that. I also practice all the questions, because questions is probably one of the best ways to know if you really know the information or not. And you also practice your test taking skills, which is very important because you need to pass examinations. There was another, I think, question integrated in that. We don't really have lectures. We like come to class every day, and that is mandatory. And since we don't have lectures, nothing is really like pre-recorded, but we do, our professors do give us PowerPoints. So you can read the PowerPoint before class. You can make flashcards based on the PowerPoint. You can make questions based on the PowerPoint. You have the materials and you can organize them however you want to be beneficial for you.
Great. Yeah. And just to clarify, attendance is mandatory, right? At our school. So actually, it's interesting. We had an information session here in Houston, and one of the prospective students brought her cousin along, who actually, I'm not going to name the medical school, but let's just say it was another medical school in the Caribbean. And his technique was to just not go to the lectures at all, and then just kind of study on his own time. And kind of obviously that they can really mess around with your schedule, but I think it also kind of spoke to the fact that the activities that y'all are doing while you're in class is very powerful. It's impacted, and it helps to really reinforce what it is that you're learning. So it does look like we have one more question there. Someone wanted to know if they have Verizon, would it work there in Dominica? Actually, I will have that answer shortly. But if you do have a U.S. carrier, do check with them. There can be additional roaming charges if you're bringing a phone from the U.S. I know in Dominica, it was just much more affordable to actually just get a local SIM card there. And then my overall experience was, the calls and data were much better. And I did experience, international travel with Verizon that I have now. And although they say like you are covered internationally, sometimes it doesn't work as well as you wish. But that's definitely something, should you get accepted, our student support services could assist you with. One more question, Audrick. Is there a specific dress code or uniform for pre-med and medical students?
No, you just, the weather's hot, so you might be in, I guess, short sleeve and shorts. Though the campus can be a little chilly at times, so you could have a sweater, but there's no generalized code of any kind.
Yeah, I was gonna say I experienced the same thing where it's really pleasant weather outside. It's fun to be in like a t-shirt and shorts. But once you're in the campus, they tend to just have the AC cranked up. So I was always wearing a coat, and people were like, "Oh, why are you so dressed up?" And like I was like, "Well, I'm freezing." So that's probably the most important place you need a sweater in Dominica is while you're actually there on campus. So. At this time, I don't think we have any additional questions. We are a little bit over our allotted time, but thank you, Dr. Sanchez de Leon, and thank you very much, Audrick, for being here. I know life as a medical student is super hectic. You guys are super busy, and wish you well as you finish up the semester. We know with your performance and kind of where you are, you definitely have gotten off to a great within your first semester. And I look forward to seeing you once I'm in Dominica. And for those who joined us, thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out to us. If you've not already applied, especially if you're considering coming for July, now is definitely the time to get your application in. Again, there's not a fee involved. So thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.
Thank you, Mason. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone who joined us. Thank you.
Mhm.